You're listening to the Public Health Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode. On this podcast, we explore topics of interest for professionals at the intersection of public health and entrepreneurship. My name is Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and I'm thrilled that you've decided to join me on this episode. I'm a public health entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience in healthcare and in public health, and I've supported many entrepreneurs along the way. I'm excited to support you on this podcast, especially this episode, as I dive into the topic of some commonly used consulting models. This has been emerging. So at the time that I'm recording this, I'm actually this is before our in-person retreat, our mastermind retreat. And I'm preparing to share this topic. We're going to do a deep dive with our attendees at the retreat because I know this is something that the majority of the people in this room who will be joining the retreat are really facing these sort of challenges. What model should they embrace for their business? Sometimes you can start with one model and shift to a different model. So some of the attendees are really trying to embrace that initial model, and some are shifting from the model that they started into a different model. And I know they're having these pain points because in our mastermind group program, I get to know everyone really well in their businesses and watch them grow and transform. It's really exciting. So I'm recording this before our retreat, but by the time you actually hear this episode, we will have already completed our retreat and have returned back home. And I'm expecting some real deep dive conversations because, like I said, I know them really well. We're going to spend some time on this topic and actually working through to help create the model that each individual person needs at this retreat. I'm real excited about this. On this episode, I'm hoping that I can at least present to you some of the commonly used models, share with you some pros and cons, and maybe you will pick the one that resonates with you, the model that you're working with right now, or maybe you haven't embraced a model. And maybe from hearing these examples, you'll decide that one of them sounds a little bit more appealing to you, either where you are right now or where you'd like to be. Okay. So let's dive in. There are 4 examples that I'll share with you. Now, this is not all inclusive, and this expands across the general, I would say, industry of consulting. So, there are all these different niche areas and we're in public health. So you'll have to fill in the gaps in terms of specifically how you serve and how you show up in your business. But we're just talking about specifically consulting models. So the first one I'd like to share with you, which is probably the most familiar, is the solo or independent model. So by definition, a single entrepreneur is operating independently, often specializing in just one specific niche, which I always recommend, especially those that have just gotten started. You need to spend some time in a niche, in an area serving. And often when you start, you are starting by yourself. So as the solo or independent model, you are the consultant, you are operating, you're doing everything. It's just you. So the pros to that is the overhead is very low. You have full control over your business and all the business decisions. There is flexibility in the work arrangements because it's just you. You get to make it fit however it needs to fit for you. And you are directly building relationship with your clients. So those are some of the pros for this model. Now, the cons, I will mention, it is limited capacity for large projects. So you really are very limited in your capacity to take on any large projects because it's just you. You have challenges in scaling your business, and I'll talk about what scaling means. Scaling a business really means growing your company in the way that allows you to expand the reach and increase in the profits. So scaling essentially is just growing your business or growing your company, and you're able to do more and cost you less. So you're becoming more profitable as you scale, as you grow. So when you hear people talk about scaling, it's a way of growing your business and becoming more profitable. So if we go back to this solo independent model, one of the cons is that it's really difficult to scale a business if it's just you. So it's hard to grow beyond just what you can do because it's just one person. So you'll understand this better as I go through some of the other models. There is a potential for some inconsistent income because, again, it's just you. It depends on what you can do and what you can manage, and there's no one else. And the responsibility of all the business functions fall on you. So not just the client work, but everything. Okay. In this independent model or this solo model, it's usually just you, but occasionally you might bring on a subcontractor for a project here and there, just occasionally, or you may bring on an occasional virtual assistant, but that solo model is essentially just you. Okay. The second model that's really common is the firm model. Now, let me first define it. It's more of a traditional consulting structure with multiple consultants, and you're often organized in levels where you may, as the CEO, and then you have maybe senior consultants, junior consultants, different type of consultants that fall under you. The pros to this firm model is the ability to handle large, complicated, or complex projects, because you have this team. So you're able to take on projects that are more complex than you would as a solo or independent model. Another pro is the diverse expertise and resources. You can really have more diversity in the resources and the type of projects, or just really the background of the people that make up the team. Stronger market presence. And sometimes brand recognition. As a firm, there's a little bit more brand recognition and certainly a stronger market presence. The potential for higher revenue and growth. So you're able to, because you can take on those bigger projects and you have team members that you can often take on multiple projects with a firm model because you have multiple consultants. Now, the cons for this is that, of course, there's higher overhead costs and it's more complex in terms of management structure. Now you have these different consultants and team members. You've got, you have a management structure. You are likely the one overseeing everyone, or you may have this level, like maybe you have senior consultants and then junior consultants and other team members that fall under the senior consultants. So that more complex management structure is sometimes seen as a con. The potential for internal competition and, kind of the politics of having multiple consultants and views and points, that is something that could be viewed as a con. And there's less flexibility in operations because you've got simply more people involved. So the third example that I will share with you. So we've talked about the solo or independent model, the firm model just now. The third model is the productized model, where essentially your consulting services are packaged into a standardized, scalable group of products or services. So again, scaling is the way that your business is able to grow. It allows you to expand and also increase in your profits. So a productized model is one of the biggest pros for that is it is a scalable business model because you have a packaged group of, either products or services, and this is what you're creating or delivering on consistently. So you're able to build the exact team you need for this, and you can, as you take on more clients, you can bring on these team members, and it's very scalable. Your business can grow very easy with this model. It's predictable revenue streams. You're really able to predict, if you have a model, a package, how many people is needed to complete each engagement or project or contract, and you do multiples of these, your profit range for each one of those is very predictable revenue streams. It is easier to market and sell often. And another pro for this is the potential for passive income. I almost put air quotes with that because there's really truly no passive income, right? There's something going on behind the scenes, but it is a way that you can keep yourself in a position where your team is doing more of the work. You're much more of that visionary role. Now, there are some cons. One is that there's less customization for your clients. So it's the solo project or the solo model. You can very much customize it. But as you are in this productized model, it's the least customized kind of, because you have this package. So you may have a little few things that you could customize, but for the most part, it's not. That's how it's designed to operate, or this package, whether it's a product or service. The initial investment, there is an initial investment sometimes in developing whatever that product or service is. You've got to create it. You've got to go through a few iterations until you get it locked in and you know that this is what that product or service is going to be. So there's that development phase that could take a little bit of time. That's a little bit of a con. And the ongoing need for product updates and maintenance and revisions and so forth, because you've got to stay up to date with whatever it is. You've got to modify it and revise it and really keep it refreshed. So that is seen as a con sometimes. And there may be limits on the types of clients or projects because it is least customized, and you're really, the whole allure to the productized model is that it is more structured. So it may limit the type of clients or projects that you are able to accept, because maybe they want something more customized than what your offer is. An example of a productized model could have the founder, CEO there, and then you may have a product development team. So you've got developers and designers. You may have a marketing and sales team with marketing specialists and sales representatives, and then maybe a customer support person or support specialist. So that may be just an example of a productized model. Okay, so the fourth example that I will share with you is a hybrid model. Now, this contains, multiple elements of different models, as you can imagine. So sometimes it combines elements of multiple models, like blending the traditional consulting firm model with the productized offerings. So pros to this could be that you have diversified revenue streams. It's sometimes very appealing to people to have more than one ways to bring in revenue to the business. The flexibility to serve a variety of clients' needs is another pro for a lot of people. The potential for both custom and scalable solutions. So you can have the more broad, customizable projects that you bring on with a consulting team, and then you can have a scalable, productized part of the business that is served through those scalable solutions. So this is an example of a hybrid type of model where you could have both offerings essentially. Now, another pro here is the ability to leverage strengths across different models. So some parts of, say, the firm model and the productized model, the parts that you think of are the strongest could be blended together to create the hybrid model that would work for you. A con for this is that it is much more complex business structure. There are challenges in balancing different service types. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. This is not something I would recommend for someone early on getting started, because you need to work through something to decide what is, you've got to go through several client examples and products and services and offerings until you find what is really working and where you want to niche down. This is not necessarily where you start. This may be something you evolve to in this hybrid model. But another con here is that potential for brand confusion. So if you're offering too many different things, it can be very confusing to your client, and it requires diverse skill sets and resources. So this is very appealing in the right scenario. I think much more advanced in someone who's been in business for a while, but not necessarily the beginner model that I would recommend. So once again, I talked about the solo or independent model when it's just you, the firm model, which is the traditional consulting structure where it's the CEO or leader and a group of consultants working on various projects. And sometimes it's a hierarchy type of system where you've got senior consultants and then junior consultants under them, and then analysts under the junior consultants and so forth. We talked about the productized model, the one it's very scalable, where you have a structured type of a program, very little customization there, but you deliver with very scalable, very predictable model where this is what we deliver. It's a package or service or products. It's packaged and you offer that to your clients, very standardized. And then the hybrid, which could be a combination of any of those. These are not the only models out there, but these are the most common that we hear about and that you've seen, maybe not knowing that that's what you were seeing. This is also where you've got to be careful, because if you're just sort of mimicking or being inspired by what someone else is doing, you're trying to follow what they're doing, it can be very confusing if you're not sure what their model is. So maybe think more about where you are now. See where do you fall? Are you the independent solo? Do you have a firm? What is your model now? And then also think about where you would like to be and what's appealing to you, and map out a plan to be able to get there. Like I said, I'm looking forward to being with our attendees at the retreat and diving into this with some of them and specifically crafting out and helping them craft out their models. We've got workbooks and drawings, and I'm ready for them. Of course, like I said, by the time you are listening to this, we will have already completed that retreat and it will have already happened. But I imagine this is something that we will continue to talk about in our mastermind group program, which I'm glad you asked about. We do have a mastermind group program where we dive into things like this, these types of topics and things that help support your business and help you on this journey. It is best suited for people who are already established public health entrepreneurs, but we do work together online as well as in person. We gather together twice a year, and it's for a 2-day retreat each time. We've had entrepreneurs come from all over to attend our in-person retreats, and they're exciting because we build relationship in our online setting, and then we get to really solidify that in person. And I think what happens for me from my coaching perspective is I get to watch the transformation in people, like amplify it in person. I think it's amazing. Enrollment for our mastermind is only open twice a year, in June and December. And it is only open to people who have submitted an application. So those are the only people we reach out to, is those who have submitted an application. We invite you to join during that time. So if you'd like to know more about our mastermind group program, then please visit our website and submit an application at publichealthentrepreneurs.com. And you'll also find the links to this in the description for this episode as well. All right, everyone. Until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Visit publichealthentrepreneurs.com to learn more.